Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, and we're here with another wonderful video on the Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel talking about science fiction, movies, TVs, books, all sorts of stuff. And many of you know, of course, that it's the 45th anniversary of the moon landing, man's walk on the moon. And for me, growing up with science fiction, of course, I was reading as a kid all of Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, and so landing on the moon was something I expected to happen in the 60s. So the interesting thing about this is that of all people, I was a teenager when man landed on the moon. You'd think that I would be glued in front of my TV watching the moon landing. But oddly enough, I was actually at a big old-fashioned supermarket on Pico and Robertson here in Los Angeles called Toluca Market. And they were piping in the moon landing, the audio, via these big speakers, these big old speakers. And everyone else in the market were elderly ladies who were Holocaust survivors. It was a Jewish neighborhood that I grew up in, and so to stand there with all these women with the tattoos on their arms, listening to the greatest thing that man had ever accomplished, having survived one of the worst things that man had ever done, was enormously moving to me, enormously affecting. And I feel that the fact that I got to share this experience with them was the greatest gift I could have had. And I'm so glad that I had that experience rather than just watching it in front of my TV at home alone. And it's interesting because, you know, the one thing that we in science fiction, because I write science fiction, I write movies and TV and books and all sorts of stuff, Twilight Zone Companion, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosity, Star Trek: The Next Generation. The one thing we never expected when man went to the moon is that we would then just stop. And so I'm a huge advocate of manned missions to Mars and the outer planets. When we saw 2001, we thought that was what was going to happen. And Ray Bradbury was one of my great mentors the last 10 years of his life. I'd go over to his house once a month, and we'd just sit and talk. And Ray told me that the night of the moon landing, he was booked in London to appear on the David Frost show. And when he got there, he was appalled that they weren't going to be talking about the moon landing. They weren't going to be celebrating this amazing triumph of mankind. Instead, they were just going to have a regular show. And Sammy Davis Jr. was booked to sing and tell jokes and dance and whatever. And he loved Sammy Davis Jr., he told me, but this was not the moment for that. This was not the night for that. And he was furious at the show, and he stormed out. He didn't even appear on it. They were aghast. And he found another show, and he got on that show and was talking about the moon landing, because he said this was the greatest night of humanity, and to not celebrate it and not commemorate it was just a crime. Would have been a terrible mistake. So Ray and I talked about that, and we talked about a manned landing on Mars. I'm so glad that Elon Musk is an advocate of that, and I think there should be a Kickstarter campaign for a manned Mars landing and a Wiki Mars. I think we should all band together. It's not going to be the government's guys. It's going to be us if we're going to send someone to Mars. And so let's all start that going. Anyone who wants to start that, I'm aboard. I'm definitely aboard to be an advocate for that. Occupy Mars. I've seen that T-shirt and I love it. I'm going to get one. So that's all for now. Again, it's Mr. Sci-Fi. Please subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of these videos talking about all sorts of wonderful science fiction, and comment and like this channel. In terms of commenting, if you have memories of the moon landing, or if you have ideas about Mars and how we can get there and how we can finance it, please comment. I welcome comments that have a lot of different opinions. And so we'll see you again next time. Thanks very much. Very glad to be sharing this time with you. And here's a little toast of the invisible glass to Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and all of those wonderful, intrepid men who left our planet for the first time. Talk to you again soon.